the University of Arizona's president, Robert Robbins, was on a flight to DFW today. What's up, everybody? It's Trey Smith with College Game Time, here with another video on the College Game Time YouTube channel. Pac-12, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Ignore the fire. Ignore everything you see burning. Everything's going to be okay, right? Well, we're about to dive into that and what's going on with that conference out there on the West Coast. But before we do, please like, subscribe, share with a friend, leave a comment at the end. Let's get the discussion going. I so appreciate the back and forth I've been able to have on prior videos, including the one from earlier today about UConn and the Big 12. Had some good discussion going on there. So please just leave me your thoughts. You can come at me. You can agree with me, whatever. We're going to talk. We're going to discuss it. Debate it, whatever you want to call it. It's all in fun. It's talking season. The college football 2023 season can't get here fast enough. But in the meantime, let's see what's going to happen with the landscape. So, talking about the Pac-12, obviously they still have no media deal. Last week, early in the week, I posted a video titled Deadlines Make Deals. And I talked about some deadlines that could be weighing into the Pac-12's media deal that they've yet to get done. Obviously, there's a lot of smoke around streaming. I went on and talked about the Apple TV connection that's there and the positives that could come from that. Obviously, there's still negatives to be considered when you're looking at going streaming, but they're running out of options. Now, they do have one piece of leverage. They do have this one bargaining chip still currently as of today that no other conference has that they can use in these conversations with these different outlets. However, as each day goes by, it seems like we might be getting closer and closer to the Pac-12 losing that bargaining chip, and I'll talk about that here in just a second. But before we do, the deadlines make deals. One of those deadlines I talked about was the June 30th San Diego State deadline, and that one has just gotten much more hot since I posted that video early last week, because at the end of last week, if you haven't been keeping up, San Diego State put a notice to the Mountain West Conference, basically saying, hey, if we decide to leave, which we're going to do, can we get an extension on that June 30th deadline? And if we can't, like, what's this really going to look like if we give you our notice? Can we negotiate the money terms, the finances? I mean, we did just make a run to the Final Four in the NCAA championship in basketball. Like, are we really out? Or can we work and negotiate some of this buyout, some of this money, and some of these financial terms? The Mountain West Conference basically comes back around, says, no, you leave, you're gone. We accept your notice of resignation. We're taking your president's board seat. See ya. San Diego State, in a scramble, responds back. This is all Pete Thamel's report. San Diego State, they respond to the Mountain West Conference saying, well, hold on. We weren't officially giving you our notice of resignation or our notice of intent to leave. We were just simply saying, hey, can we get an extension on the deadline? And if we do, is there going to be some negotiations we can have? Mountain West Conference basically comes back and says, well, we deny that this was not your official notice. And as far as things stand right now, San Diego State, as of June 30th, will not have a conference unless something happens here in the next 10 days. So that leads me to this first question I want to talk about here tonight, which is, why would San Diego State do this? Why would they do something so risky knowing that this could be a potential outcome? Well, one of two options, okay? Either they knew without a shadow of a doubt, or they know that the Pac-12 is not anywhere close to signing a media deal. And because San Diego State wants to join the Pac-12, per reports, going into 2024, they were like, well, let's see if we can get an extension. If they're not going to get a deal done into July, which I've even heard possibly August 1st, which would just be crazy, I think they were just trying to see how far can we push this day out to give ourselves even more time. But I think there's also another reason. So obviously reason one is knowing that the Pac-12 is not anywhere close. But I think the other reason is this smoke around Colorado and even Arizona jumping ship to the Big 12, it might be a little bit smokier than we think. So what I'm saying is I think San Diego State maybe has wind that one of those two teams, if not both, are looking to jump ship here in the next 10 days before July 1, because that was that other deadline I was referring to last week about the Big 12 giving them notice of, hey, you have until July 1st to make this to make a decision. You're either leaving or you're staying. But that's it. That hasn't been confirmed, at least not to me, but that's out there. And now we're starting to see the chips fall because deadlines are what create movement. And right now what we're seeing is movement. So San Diego State, worst case, might just be left out to dry. I'm still not convinced that the Big 12 San Diego State thing may be a thing. Okay, I made a video about that into last week as well. But I think something's getting ready to start shaking here in the next 10 days as far as this is concerned. And if the Pac-12 does in fact, or if they don't in fact have any kind of traction on a deal or a good deal, we're about to start seeing some teams jump ship. Now, just a little tidbit here. Some of you may already be aware of this, but apparently Arizona, the University of Arizona's president, Robert Robbins, according to Arizona insider Jason Scheer, was on a flight to DFW today. Now, we don't want to read too much into that, right? Like coaching searches when you're plane tracking, doing all that. Well, now we're doing a conference search, and we've got a school president flying into DFW. He could be visiting family. He could be visiting some friends. He could be just on a standard business for whatever reason out in Dallas, Texas. But just another tidbit to go along with that is the reason why the DFW pulls up those rabbit ears is because Big 12 headquarters is in Irving, Texas, right smack dab in the middle of DFW. So, not saying that that's why he was making that trip, but I'm also not going to say that's not why he was making that trip. I think right now, Colorado and Arizona have 1 foot out and 1 foot in. And they're waiting to see if a miraculous contract media revenue sharing split comes across the table that will keep them in the pack. But if that doesn't happen here in the next 10 days, I think we see one of them, if not both, jumping ship to the Big 12. But again, it just seems like everything's contingent on this media deal. Then today, Paul Finebaum, he's an SEC guy, you know, kind of a polarizing figure. You either like him or you either love him or you hate him. He said today in a report by On3 Sports, Finebaum went on to say the bigger conferences may not even want to expand, but will be forced to go ahead and stake their claim with the Pac-12 conference since they could be available. And ultimately, this is a quote, as much as big conferences don't really want to expand at the moment, I think they'll be forced to take the cream of the crop out there. Whether it's the Big Ten going after the Northwest schools, they've strongly been linked to Oregon and UW, or whether it's Colorado or Arizona, or somebody else just deciding to go to the Big 12. I do not believe the Pac-12 can exist. Finebaum thinks the Pac-12 is done. In fact, I don't remember which outlet it was, but it said by 2026, he thinks the Pac-12 is going to be dead. I don't think that. I think the Conference of Champions will survive, but I do think it's going to look a lot different than what we're used to it being. Obviously, we know with USC and UCLA leaving, but I think there's going to be more. In fact, it could be as bad as them being gutted, losing the Northwest, losing Arizona, Colorado, and then having to backfill, rebuild from there. Teams like San Diego State, maybe, depending on how these next 10 days play out. Team like SMU, I think that's another. I think SMU would be a great fit. I don't have time in this particular video to explain why. For both parties, that would be a good merger. But at some point, I will. But the final thing I want to talk about here is that piece of leverage, that bargaining chip from the beginning of this video that I referenced. The one thing the Pac-12 can offer right now that other conferences can't as it pertains to media, as it pertains to a Saturday lineup of games, is Pac-12 After Dark. Late night football, Power 5 teams in the late night slots. Both Fox and ESPN want and need Power 5 football in those late night slots. They want to have games going from morning to after midnight. And that's what the Pac-12 has been able to offer. Now, they still can offer that, and they can still use that in their negotiations. However, the longer this thing drags out, the more likely it seems like other conferences are going to be able to offer that if they're able to go poach those teams. For example, if Oregon and UW end up joining USC and UCLA to the Big Ten, teams like Colorado and Arizona end up jumping to the Big 12. Okay, now you've got, 6 total teams. And then let's say San Diego State's kind of left out there to dry, and the Big 12 comes in and scoops them up, even though they would really have to figure out the short-term financials and the revenue splits, because that would be a little bit tougher for the Big 12 to figure out than for like an Arizona or a Colorado as it pertains to subsidized money and all that from from ESPN and Fox, I think. However, you have those 6 schools, possibly 7. Now you've got somewhat of a lineup that you can fill those late slots with. And so what I mean is, it's not that the Pac-12 wouldn't be able to fill those late night slots. They just wouldn't be the only Power 5 conference that could fill those late night slots. And that's where you start to lose your leverage in negotiations, is when the thing that you have that no one else can offer, now other entities, other conferences can offer that. So I don't know what's about to happen. It's not looking good for the Pac-12. The fan in me, make no mistake about it, because I know y'all come for me in the comments. Like, I want the Pac-12 to survive this. Now, I would love to see Colorado and Arizona in the Big 12, because I think it fits what the Big 12 is trying to build. But I also would love to see the Pac be able to sustain what they currently have and then be able to add San Diego State and SMU. Now, being able to add San Diego State just got a little bit more complicated, or I should say got a little more accelerated. And so I don't know if that means that now the Pac-12, they're not going to take a deal just based on this one G5 school. But it's not just about that. It's also about keeping what they currently have. So I hope for their sake they don't just rush into a deal. Well, they're not going to do that, but just take a deal in the next 10 days because they're trying to save face. I don't think they'll do that. I think we could see this drag out till August maybe, or at least late July. But that may be too long to keep teams like Arizona and Colorado, and dare I say Washington, Oregon, depending on what those revenue splits look like when they come across the desk. So to the school president. So let me know in the comments what you're thinking. Okay, what are you feeling right now, Pac-12 fans? And if you're from another conference, Big 12, I know I got my Big 12 family on here as well. What are you thinking? What are you hearing? What are your thoughts? What are your predictions? And let's just keep the conversation going. That's it for me, Trey Smith with College Game Time.